Good morning and welcome to the Hibs Observer post-match debrief, slightly delayed by the absolute carnage that unfolded at Easter Road. I made it almost 4 rewrites to the match report last night for Hibs 3, Aberdeen 3, a truly bonkers game of football. Patrick, have you managed to screw your head back on you after that?
Yeah, just about, I think. Certainly didn't see, I was going to say any of that coming up, and that'd be accurate. I think, the way things have gone for Hibs this season, when Aberdeen scored their second, you thought there wasn't a way back in. When they scored a third, you thought, surely they're not going to do it again. And I think in that Hibs performance last night, I mean, let's not kind of, make it into something it wasn't. There was still an awful lot of sort of problems. I think David Gray said afterwards about papering over the cracks, and I think that's really kind of what you can kind of take from it. I think there were obvious positives in that Hibs displayed a sort of a bit of fight and a bit of mettle that we've not really seen from them this season. They responded well to the adversity of going behind, well, twice, and I just think it's maybe a little sign that there is something there in this group of players that it's not a total lost cause. I mean, over the course of this discussion, I'm sure we'll pick up on some of the good bits and the bad bits, but I think it was probably one of the first times in a long time where it's actually been fun watching Hibs.
Yeah.
There was a lot of chaos, a lot of uncertainty, and then you've got things like Nicky Cadden scoring his third goal in as many games, Rocky Bashiri getting his first goal, Joe Newell, who isn't the most prolific of midfielders, also getting on the score sheet, albeit with the aid of a deflection. But just, I mean, I don't think anybody turning up for that game last night could have predicted there was going to be 6 goals and half of them would be scored in 4 minutes of injury time at the end. But I think it's the sort of main positives for Hibs are they've got a point when they looked sort of down and out twice, and it should be something to build on going into Saturday's game at Motherwell.
Yeah, it should be. It's got to be the start of something, I suppose, rather than just a sort of isolated spark that just fizzles out. Before we get right into it, folks, as always, a word for our sponsor. Good Vibe Giveaways are proud to sponsor the Hibs Observer and offer fantastic prizes to fans of the club. Prizes change weekly and include tech and gadgets, days out, weekends away, tax-free cash, and even Oasis tickets. So get your tickets now at goodvibegiveaways.com, and enter for your chance to spread the good vibes. Last night, I think probably the main point that I sort of took away from it is why there's still still deficiencies in this team, and David Gray
Mhm.
and Warren Hora, who we also heard from afterwards, and you'll be able to read that on our website later tonight. They're not kind of shying away from the fact that it still needs to be better. But I think last night was, it was proper evidence of this line that David Gray has been repeating. That he says these players are still fighting for me. This isn't a group that
Yeah.
aren't putting the work in. That aren't trying, because they've been levelled with that accusation. But I think that accusation is the furthest thing from that performance last night. Take away the fact that technical elements, tactical elements probably still need to be better. There was heart in that performance, wasn't there? And that's if you're going to get dragged into a relegation battle, I think that is a prerequisite. You need to start showing that, and I
Mhm.
think Hibs did last night. You do need to give them credit, and it probably gives David Gray a wee bit of vindication for what he's been saying, doesn't it?
It does, and I think what occurred to me last night was that the number of games this season that Hibs have drawn where they've been in a winning position and it's been a late goal, a late sucker punch, and that obviously it's a point, but it feels like a defeat. Last night will have felt more like a victory, even though obviously, as you say, there are still deficiencies. It still, if we're being honest, wasn't great. There were some, real hairy moments that sort of suggest that, you know, problems that were there before the match, are still there. They've not been, magically eradicated just because they scored 3 goals against the sort of second place team in the league. But I think, we do sort of, at the end of seasons, we look back at games and say, oh, that was a turning point, or, that scoreline really helped them kick on. And I think the big test for Hibs now has to be building on this. It has to be going to Motherwell at the weekends and putting in the same sort of level of performance, and hopefully for this group of players to get 3 points, because that it feels like last night was the start of it, in that they fought back twice. So many times we've seen them sort of fall to the canvas and not get back up, and last night there did seem to be this sheer determination that no matter what, no matter what Aberdeen did, Hibs had an answer. And it's the unpredictability of football. You can never really tell what's going to happen. I think anyone who's watched this Hibs team this season would not have seen that coming at all. I think it was interesting. Rocky Bashiri obviously doing the pre-match press conference talking about always giving it 100% when he plays, and having to bide his time because of the the pairing of Warren O'Hora and Marvin Ekpateta at centre half. He's now getting his chance, and he's popping up with what could be a vital goal for Hibs come the end of the season, for kick-starting the season, whatever you want to call it. So I think ultimately it has to be a positive. That sort of if not the result, sort of like the fight, the determination, the sort of never say die approach that we haven't seen enough of this season. And as you say, David Gray's talked about it. He's talked about the players, still fighting for each other, still fighting for him, not giving up. And last night I think was really the first time we've seen sort of clear evidence of that. And I think it's the kind of result, the manner of the result, the manner of hitting back twice.
Yeah,
should really be a platform for them to build on and say, remember how good that feeling was. Let's take that and go one, better the next time. And if Hibs play like that, I mean, I thought they made Aberdeen look pretty ordinary at times in the first half, particularly. Obviously, Jimmy Thalen made some changes in the second half. Aberdeen looked a lot more dangerous. Hibs have always got, I think they've always got a mistake in them or an error in them, or, they can be got at, as we've seen on numerous occasions. But, I did think there were times in the first half they kind of built on that sort of first sort of 10, 15 minute spell at Dundee where, they did look like they had something about them, and they did look like they were reacting to what David Gray had been saying. So if they can put in more performances like that, and if they can prolong the good bits, then there's no reason why they shouldn't be able to get more positive results from other teams in the league. Because if that's the second place team in the league, okay, I know they lost at the weekend to St Mirren, but that's still a good team. One game unbeaten. Sorry, try that again. One loss in the Premiership this season compared to Hibs with one victory, and you would say I think they've pretty much gone toe to toe with them after quite a damaging defeat themselves in Dundee. So I think I don't think you can overstate or understate the positives. Overstate the positives, whatever it is.
it was a late night.
But it was a late night. It was a late night.
Late night.
But I don't think you can sort of overlook the fact that we did see a side of Hibs last night that we've not seen in a while. And, I think, if anything, that should be, hopefully a sign of positive things.
Yeah, aye. I mean, we've spoken enough about the negatives so far this season, and God knows there's been a lot of them. So we'll try and stick to as many positive elements from last night's game as possible. There was a few good individual performances. I think probably Nicky Cadden, we'll come to him first. As you said, third goal in 3 games. He looks a threat. He's a hard worker. And I think that when he came in the summer, then there was this expectation that he would add that set-piece threat as well, and he certainly did that last night.
Yeah, and I mean, it was something that David Gray mentioned when he came in, and I think there was a lot of just the way things were going. There was a bit of a feeling from some sections of the support that Hibs have only signed them because his brother's on the books, and I'm sure that played a part in that they can go to Chris Cadden and they can say, look, tell us about your brother. What can he add? They'll have obviously watched him playing and just thought, well, that is someone who can add a threat from set pieces, whether it's these free kicks, whether it's his his corner routines. But I don't know, he just seems to have something, whether it's coming on late as a sub against St Mirren and nearly single-handedly earning a point for Hibs in that game, scoring the early goal at Dundee, a lot of positive play last night, and then to pop up with that free kick out of nowhere, it's when you're in the situation that Hibs are in, you need players to be doing things like that. And if your strikers aren't scoring goals, which at the moment they're not, then you really need your other players to be stepping up. And we know the sort of strength in depth that Hibs have in attack, especially on the flanks. You've got Ellie Yuan, you've got Nicky Can, you've got Martin Boy, you've got Junior Hoylett, you've got there's a lot in there. There's a lot of experience. There's different sort of strengths. You've got players who've got pace, you've got players with trickery, you've got players who are direct, set piece threats, everything. And I just we've not seen enough of that. I mean, we've not seen enough of a lot of things from Hibs this season. But yeah, at the moment, Nicky Cadden does look like, I mean, it is 3 goals in 3 games. You think, is it a purple patch, or is it just they've sort of Hibs have kind of found something that works in order to get the best out of him. Because at the moment, I think he has to be one of the first names in the team sheet,
Yeah.
and that's it's difficult because there is competition for places. David Gray did mix things up last night with Jordan Abita being suspended. He did move to that back three initially, and I think that does sort of suit Nicky Cadden. He does have that sort of hybrid sort of left wing back, left wing role,
Yeah.
sort of down to a T. I think the headache for Gray is just what he does going forwards. Does he try and stick with what worked last night, or does it have to be a game by game basis? But certainly, I think the performance from Nicky Cadden last night, he almost feels like he's gone under the radar a little bit.
He has. I think that's fair. He has a wee bit.
And he obviously had he had that injury, and then I think he had a bit of a setback when he was just about coming back, and he still kind of fought back from that, and I think just really, really kind of showing why the club was so keen to bring him in, other than just being Chris Cadden's brother, obviously. But no, joking aside, he's been, I think it'd be fair to say with a lot of the summer signings, the jury is still out at best for some of them, and for others, I think there's concerns over how they've been performing, concerns over how they fit into this team. I don't think you have that with Nicky Cadden. I think he's shown his strengths. He's he can fit into the team whether he's playing left wing, right wing, left wing back, left back as he did for the final few stages last night. And I think the real test for him now is just being able to do that on a consistent basis, because you don't want him to be over reliant on individuals. But if you know that on any given game, 5 or 6 individuals have got it in their locker to step up and do things like his free kick, or to get on the end of crosses, then you would assume, you would hope that can help drag Hibs out of the situation that they're in.
Yeah, I mean, because when you're in this particular situation, at times you are going to need to rely on people just coming up with something out of nowhere, and he's showing that he's capable of that. I think it'll be interesting at the weekend with Jordan Abita back available, I believe. 1 game suspension. Yeah.
As far as I know, we could be proven wrong.
I'm sure somebody will correct us in the comments if we're not. But I mean, well, say I'll play it safe and say when he is back, it will be interesting, because I think there was some signs that sort of the 3 at the back shape when Nicky Cadden as a wing back did work last night, and he brings a threat. So then it's a decision for David Gray. Does he bring Jordan Abita straight back into that setup? Does he then go back to the 4 to get them both into the team? Again, I'm not kind of overly convinced by that, because I think both Abita and Cadden, they kind of want to do similar things and going down the outside. I think that there's a reason why it's looked quite decent in patches when it's been Abita and Hoylett on that side, because Abita likes to go down the outside, Hoylett likes to come on the he drift into those wee pockets. So it's kind of 2 players there who are kind of wanting to do sort of similar things. It'd be interesting to see if they can adapt to that, if indeed David Gray does pick both of them in the next game. But I don't think we can go much longer without a word for Rocky Bashiri. His first goal for Hibs last night, what a time to get it. Could certainly see how much it meant to him. As you said, he was doing the pre-match press conference, and he is certainly a player with a lot of heart. He does care. I thought his performance in general last night was very good, and he capped it off with that goal. It was quite a moment, wasn't it?
It was. I mentioned earlier in the discussion about players sort of popping up with something unexpected, and I think you certainly got that from Rocky last night. I mean, it's difficult, I think, when you come back into a side that's been sort of shipping goals like Hibs have, making mistakes. It's sort of really difficult to come into that when you're a centre half and you've not been playing much. And I think David Gray was very complimentary of him last night, just saying he's had to be patient, but he trains well. He's frustrated at not getting as much game time as he'd like, but you want that from players. You want them to have that sort of frustration with not playing, so that when they do come in, you maybe get that a little bit more out of them. And I'm not suggesting for a moment that players who are playing every week aren't putting in 100%. Obviously, we've seen the accusations leveled at some of the Hibs players in recent weeks. Going by the performances and results, I think you can understand why people are doing that. But I think with Rocky, he's not. I don't think he's ever been the sort of player where you thought he's phoning it in. It's always very kind of wholehearted, 100%, chest puffed out type of thing. And I think he had. It maybe seems strange to sort of say he played well in a game where Hibs conceded 3 goals, which I think, they haven't. They've obviously conceded goals this season, but there's times when it's really looked like the defense is struggling. Last night, I think it was just one of those games, and certainly in the first half, I did sort of, with Kevin Nisbet coming back to Hibs, he's obviously been in good form for Aberdeen, and I just thought this could be a real test for the likes of Rocky Bashiri and Warren O'Hora. But I thought they coped really well with him, to the extent that Aberdeen actually changed up at half time, brought him off, put on Leighton Clarkson. Um, but I thought he handled that threat quite well. All the defenders did in that back three, popped up with some good interceptions, some vital blocks, and then, as you say, caps it off with that goal at the end. And it's just you sort of, I've noticed this quite a bit recently when he's been playing, and granted he hasn't been playing that much, but he does have this. When Hibs are attacking, he just sort of seems to make this beeline into the box, and I just think that it just goes back to what we were saying about you need different things from players. You need to do different things. You need to try something different. If it's not, if one thing's not working, then do something else. I do think I've been saying this since he came to the club. I do think he looks a lot more comfortable in a back three. I think it just suits his skill set. And I think, playing the role he did last season under Nick Montgomery, where he's sort of playing on the opposite side to what he's used to. He's been tasked with sort of bringing the ball out of defence, and just maybe sort of playing a slightly different role to what he might have been used to. But with Warren O'Hora in there, you've kind of got him to do that. Rocky can just focus on doing what he's good at, which is kind of defending and putting those blocks in, those vital sort of last ditch tackles, that sort of thing. And I just think for the player himself, that'll have given him a real kind of confidence boost. With Marvin Ekpiteta being out until I think probably Christmas time at the earliest, he is going to be assuming he stays injury free and suspension free, he is going to be one of the starting centre backs, whether that is in a back three or a back four. And there's some big games coming up, not just because every game is big for Hibs at the moment because of the predicament they find themselves in, but difficult games. They've obviously got there's Hearts on Boxing Day. You've got Aberdeen again, coming up soon. There's games where Hibs, there's a chance for Hibs to take points. Saturday's game, another big game. After Tuesday night, and you'd hope that not just him, not just Rocky, but like some things like that will galvanize the rest of the team. That they'll just sort of think, there's that sort of that determination, that fight. You would hope that kind of spreads throughout the team. Because one thing you could say about last night was that Hibs finally seemed to get sort of the rub of the green a little bit, because there's been, I don't know how many times we've seen players shoot from similar regions to where Joe Newell shot from, and it's blocked, it's deflected, it's saved, but it's always out for a corner, it's always out for throw-in, or the defending team takes possession, clears it, counter-attacks. So just getting that little bit of luck with the deflection off Nicky Devlin, it's just little things like that, and you think that's what you need in football. You just sort of need little things like that to sort of just turn things your way a little bit. And there was a certain degree of fortune about Rocky's goal as well. But
it's a great header by Dwight Gale. See, watching it back, like, you didn't really appreciate that in real time because my head was on Mars with all the chaos. But it's a brilliant header by Dwight Gale.
Yeah, exactly. And it's as you say, it's a great header. Rocky's in a really good position, and it's just that just trying something different, just kind of throwing bodies forward, very kind of old-fashioned. Sort of let's try and get something from this. But yeah, just a lot last night from Hibs that we haven't seen this season, really, in terms of fight, in terms of determination, and just that little bit of luck. And they do say you make your own luck. So you would hope Hibs have been at the wrong end of a lot of bad luck, if that makes sense, or the wrong end of a lot of luck this season. Talk myself in circles here, but I just think if they can play like that and they can create their own luck, then they're going to get more breaks of the ball, and you would presume more scenes like we saw last night. And if they can cut out the silly mistakes, if they can tighten up at the back, if they can just keep doing what they're doing well, then you do think you can see why David Gray is saying he believes he's the man to turn this around. He believes the players can turn it around, because we're starting to see, albeit minimal, but we are starting to see, evidence of that. And, you don't want to exaggerate or get ahead of yourself because, Motherwell's a difficult place to go, and, it's a different test.
Mhm.
It's not a game under the lights at Easter Road. So, it is sort of like it's a different mindset required, but, I think they can take a lot of heart, a lot of confidence, a lot of positivity from the good bits of last night. And,
Yeah.
it should be a good week training, and then just desperate to get back out there again, kind of pick up where they left off. But, sort of increase the good bits and decrease the bad bits.
Simple.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
just final talking point before we need to shoot off, folks. Neatly teed up here by Jason Ladd on YouTube. So thank you, Jason. I think you hit the right formula. I'm assuming, being David Gray. At last, just not the goalkeeper. Obviously, I don't think David Gray had much choice but to drop Joseph Bursick last night. I think he'd been put in a position where, the mistakes, the confidence was so destroyed. You could see that he couldn't put him in the starting 11. He's turned to Jordan Smith, who made a couple of decent saves throughout. I mean, it looked a wee bit shaky, I thought. I think he wouldn't be human if, he's playing his first league game in, 3.5 years. There's obviously going to be nerves there. But then he sort of makes that, he flaps at the cross for Aberdeen's second goal. I think he can do better for the overhead kick as well. So what does David Gray do now? Does he try and give Smith a run in the team to try and pick up some form? Because obviously he's barely played over the past few years. Does he gamble that it's going to click for him, or does he go back to Joseph Bursick this weekend? It's kind of an unenviable decision at the moment for the manager, isn't it?
Yeah, give Max Boric a shot. Why not? Keep it rotating.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've completely left him out there.
Joking aside, I think you're right. I think almost for Joe Bursick, sort of, for himself, I think he had to be taken out of the firing line. He had to be taken out of the team. It's goalkeeper's a lonely position in football. As David Gray has told us many times this season, if you make a mistake as a goalkeeper, then more often than not it ends up a goal, which he's not wrong about. But ideally, you don't want your goalkeeper making those mistakes, because then they are leading to goals. It is, it's very simple. But I just think it feels. I think there are questions to be asked about the sort of goalkeeper recruitment in the summer, because it did almost seem like Joe Bursick comes in, and you look at his past and you think, okay, quite a lot of games for Stoke in the Championship at a young age. You get a move to a big club in Europe. Granted, you're not playing for the first team, you get an injury. You looking at that, you can say, well, here's a player who wants to be playing regular football, who wants to prove to the side that he's joined fairly recently that he's, he should be in contention for their first team. And it's, I think there's been a couple of moments. He has had some decent saves. There was a save from Cyril Dessers at Ibrox in the 1-0 defeat by Rangers. There was a save again at Ross County in the 0-0 game. There was also, a save even in the game against Dundee, a really good save where he sort of tipped an effort around the post. So he can't, obviously does have ability. He obviously does. You can see why he's sort of like highly regarded, why he's got the sort of youth caps for England, why he gets the move to Club Brugge. But I just think, like, really, it was a big risk to bring somebody in on loan and assume that they're going to just seamlessly adapt to Scottish football, because Scottish football is a different beast to English football. We've seen it numerous times in numerous positions. Players come up from England, and I'm not suggesting Bursick thought he was going to be a Scoosh, and obviously he came from Belgium, so a little bit of an unusual circumstance. But I think that it's very easy to underestimate Scottish football, and I just wonder whether that's maybe sort of been in, so that's had an effect. I think there have been errors amongst the defence which won't have helped. But ideally, what you would want sort of a number two in there who is there to kind of push the number one to sort of really, make them up their game in training, make them up their game during matches, and just sort of be on it constantly. And I just think, despite what Jordan Smith might have said when he came in, I just think it looked, from the outside, it looked like we've signed someone who's happy to be back up, and is happy to sort of essentially be there as the number two. but only if he's absolutely required to play.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is, I think we've seen before with Hibs. I mean, even, you had like Ophir Marciano, you had Adam Bogdan, Matt Macy, Kevin Dabrowski, David Marshall, Jojo Wallacott. You've had keepers who want to be playing, they want to be starting, and they're pushing each other. And I'm obviously not saying Jordan Smith doesn't want to, but I just think the whole sort of circumstances surrounding the goalkeeper recruitment, it's not maybe worked out the way they envisaged it working out. And I just think it has sort of caused, it has caused issues for David Gray. It's caused issues for, the whole team. And as you say, Jordan Smith comes in last night. He did make some good saves at some good points in the game, but there is that. You maybe want him to be doing better with the overhead kick from Esther Sockler. You want him to be doing better with that, with the second goal. It's another set piece. I think he has to get a run at the moment. I don't think he can just go back to putting Joe Bursick in, because I don't know what sort of message that sends.
Yeah, that's the problem. Isn't it?
I said that I thought it was best to take Bursick out of the firing line for his own good. I think that just getting that sort of getting a bit of time out of the limelight will help him. He can sort of reset psychologically. He can focus on just kind of putting in 100% in training, and at some point you would imagine he would come back in. But I think certainly for Saturday's game, I don't think David Gray will want to make too many changes. He's already going to be without Joe Newell in midfield, so that's one enforced change. Depending on how players got through last night in terms of knocks and niggles, things like that, there might be other things to do in terms of making changes. So I think you want to limit changes as much as possible. Sorry, excuse me. These long cold nights at Easter Road aren't helping my health. I don't think he could have argued with the changes that he made after the Dundee game. Obviously, some enforced, but some, you think just a case of changing it up. But I mean, it's interesting to see what happens in January with the transfer window, because I mean we've seen it with teams in other leagues. If you've got a goalkeeper who their confidence isn't high, if they're making mistakes, it sort of spreads to the defence, and if you're in a relegation battle, that can be sort of fatal. And I just think, I mean, there's been a lot of questions. I mean, well, in fact, you look at last night, Dimitar Mitov, the Aberdeen keeper, was mentioned as somebody Hibs should be maybe taking a look at in the summer. You've obviously got the connection with the Black Knights in Bournemouth, Will Dennis, who was at Kilmarnock, currently kind of third choice at the Vitality Stadium, and you just think, there were options out there, and you're not going to get every recruitment decision right. Obviously, at Hibs over the past few years, there's been more rights than wrongs. Sorry, that's not true. More wrongs than rights. More misses than hits, and it feels like it's such an important position, and I don't think you can. I don't think it's the sort of thing where you could just say, right, we'll bring in these two people and then that's goalkeeper taken care of.
Yeah.
It needs to be someone who's going to is able to produce the sort of match saving or match winning moments. Somebody who inspires sort of confidence in the defence. Somebody who I mean, you need a strong spine in a team, and that starts with a goalkeeper. And I'm not sure last night answered any questions. I don't think it's made David Gray's life any easier in terms of what he does long term with the goalkeeping position, or at least until the transfer window. But I would be tempted to sort of stick with Smith on the basis that you could put last night down to rustiness. As you say, it has been a long time since he last played in a league game. He's only played one game previously for Hibs in the Premier Sports Cup. So, give him the chance against Motherwell, see how he copes, see how he fares with that, and then you can make a decision after that when you've maybe got a bit of a longer turnaround between between the next game and that game.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't like to be in his position. I don't think it's not straightforward at all. I think there's probably arguments for playing both for and against. So it's a real kind of sticky situation. I think, like I said, you need a strong goalkeeper. It's the base of your spine. But I think, if Jordan Smith had come in last night, played a blinder, Hibs had won 3-0, you'd be saying, problem solved. But as things are, I just think there's still a little bit of doubt, there's still a little bit of uncertainty that I think, we might find out a little bit more on Saturday at Motherwell. But until then, I think it's going to be a difficult one for Gray and his coaching staff.
Absolutely. As you say, we'll find out on Saturday as to what David Gray wants to go with in goal and indeed across the rest of the pitch. But for now, folks, we are going to leave it there. Thanks for joining us this morning. If you're watching us on YouTube, please do consider hitting the subscribe button to help us to continue growing the channel to bring you these videos. You'll also get a notification every time we go live, so you won't miss out on a thing. So, as I said, folks, thank you very much for joining us. We'll have more content, more reaction to last night's game throughout today, and then we'll be building into the weekend's game against Motherwell. So enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll speak to you again very, very soon. Cheers.
Cheers.